and welcome to Ecoholics. Today we are going to understand a concept related to the development theory, which is known as Big Push. The Big Push theory was given by a very famous and a very important economist whose name was Rosenstien Rodan. Now, Rodan gave this theory which was built around the fact that how industrialization and in fact the development is going to be multiple times in a particular economy and how the growth is going to take place in that economy along with the idea of big push. Now let's understand what exactly is this big push about. But before that, let's understand something with regards to the economist. So Rosenstien Rodan, whose full name was Paul Rosenstien Rodan, was actually the developmental economist of the Austrian school of thought, and his initial days of influence were from the other economist, very famous, known as Ragnar Nurks. So all of his theories of developmental economics and the various concepts related to economics were actually very much influenced from Ragnar Nurks. Then of course he also authored a particular publication in the year 1943 named as Problems of Industrialization of Eastern and Southern Eastern Europe, where actually the idea of big push theory came about. In this publication, he had given a very simple concept that when you have to plan any kind of large-scale investment or large-scale industrialization in a specific underdeveloped economy, which is highly labor-oriented or high in amount of agricultural labor, then what kind of technology, what kind of developmental tools have to be incorporated so as to give that economy a major push. That push will happen from various aspects. However, Rodan had identified that push had to be given in order to give the economy a major growth, because he thought that smaller investments in smaller sectors will not contribute to a major multitude growth that is required for an underdeveloped economy to come out of that underdevelopmental phase. So which is why he had argumented in favor of big push. Now, in order to take advantage of the network effects, it's very important. Now, what are these network effects? So when we talk about these network effects are regarding the economies of scale and economies of scope. So which means that during the industrialization, when the industries have to increase or expand, which regards to industrialization and economies of scale, and if they want to also diversify their industries in different products, in different services, in different types of goods, which would mean that there is economies of scope. So both of these aspects when are covered, that becomes network externalities or network economies, and these network economies can be easily fetched with the help of big push. Now we know that there was a big push according to Rodan which was required for various underdeveloped economies through heavy industrialization or through heavy investment in various sectors or different sectors. But how will that happen, or what was the notion behind it? So let's see the notion behind it. When we talk about the theory of big push, there is a minimum level of resources that must be devoted to developmental program. Now over here in this line, there's one very important word which is the minimum level of resources. Now this does not mean that you require minimum small amount of resources. Usually when students read about these theories in the various developmental articles or books, they usually consider it as to be minimum or bare minimum level. However, this is the minimum. That terminology means at least. So at least a crucial critical amount of investment is required for the big push. Not just Rodan, but later on Libenstein also favored this idea of critical minimum effort, or the big push that is going to be influenced by a critical or a minimum amount of resources, investments which are highly required, which must be incorporated so that the economy can grow and develop. So how will the economy grow and develop? By putting that amount or infusing it in the various developmental programs, if it has to have a chance of any success, and of course launching a country into a self-sustained growth path. A self-sustained growth path can only be achieved by an economy when the economy has enough amount of momentum, and that momentum can be set by that big push, right? Now there was a term which was given, or there was a phrase which was given by Rodan, which was a very interesting phrase. So you can look at this line, that how will a country get into that self-sustaining path of growth? So self-sustaining path of growth is a little like getting an airplane off the ground. So when an airplane has to get off the ground and it has to lift, there is a minimum fuel requirement, minimum engine speed requirement, or power requirement. So when that is put on, gradually the plane lifts off the ground. So similarly, it has been used as a phrase to draw analogous argument against, or let's say in favor of, the situation of an underdeveloped country also, right? Now, when we talk about the country, or the different aspects of the underdeveloped country also matter a lot. According to Rodan, in the big push theory, the big push is required specifically because underdeveloped countries have three major problems, three major uncertainties, or also known as indivisibilities. Now these indivisibilities are there in every underdeveloped country according to Rodan, and there is enough requirement for reducing or totally striking these indivisibilities off by a way of big push. But before that, we should know what are these indivisibilities. So these indivisibilities are basically responsible for external economies, and which is why we need to know what indivisibilities are there. So indivisibilities are related to the production function, to the demand, and to the savings. These are the three very important points. Let's understand them in detail as well. The very first one is the indivisibility in the production function. Now, production function is basically a technical input-output function, wherein we know that there is specific raw material, there is specific use of inputs, and due to that we will get a certain output. But because of a problem or indivisibility in the production function, what happens? So indivisibilities in production function may be respect to inputs. The inputs or the raw material might not be up to the mark, or they might not be accessible. So there might be problem of accessibility. Okay, there might also be another problem with the inputs, that they are of low quality. That can also be one of the problems. Okay, then there can also be problems in inputs related to different other issues. For example, it might not be a perfect fit. For example, some commodities require a certain type of products which are very important, very crucial. Okay, so certain inputs are required to produce a certain quantity of a commodity. However, if those raw material or inputs are not available, then we or the industry is going to find some substitutes that this can also be substituted instead of that. Okay. However, probably those inputs are also not substitutable. So that can also be an issue. Otherwise, the output will totally be in soup, not really good quality product will be produced. So these can be issues with the input in the production function. Then there can also be problems related to the processes. Processes are identified as various techniques used, methodology used to produce a particular commodity. Processes can be old, traditional, and very basic as per as the requirement of the new development that is happening around the world. Every country and every country's industries need to adapt and to upgrade themselves every year, possibly every now and then. Now, these adaptations are very important, especially in the processes also. Let's say there are really good inputs available, good quality inputs available, but there is no methodology or technique to process that input into a functioning output. Now that will definitely be a reason why a country is really backward, because they are not good at those processes. Probably there is no good technology available. Probably there is a lot of wear and tear in the machines, or the machines which are used are very traditional or very basic or very old. So all of these things can be the problems related to the processes. And finally, the output. And output, of course, is the whole effect of the cause, which is inputs and processes. So if the inputs and processes are problematic, then definitely the output also is going to be major problem to the country. Probably it's not export friendly, or the export quality commodity has not been produced. Probably it is very low quality product which cannot be even domestically substituted or purchased or sold. Probably the distribution has various issues. So the production function, under the production function, main three things which can raise major issues specifically in the whole industrialization process of an underdeveloped country are these three. Okay, so this can be a major issue when we talk about big push theory. We want to know what are the problems that are required to be catered to when the big push is going to be provided to the country. So this is the first part. Then we have the next one, which is the indivisibilities in demand. Okay, so we can say the indivisibilities in demand. You can also say it as the complementarity of demand. Now to understand this, Rodan had given a very beautiful example to it. Okay, a hypothetical situation where he says that let's consider a shoe factory. Okay, a shoe factory, shoemaking factory. Now, if a country makes a large investment in that shoe industry, what will happen? Of course, the industry will expand. So there'll be more number of people who can get employed in that industry, right? So all the disguised unemployed people are going to be, or labor from various other industries which are not functioning efficiently, are going to find work and a source of income. Their incomes are going to increase, leading to a rise in the production of shoes, because now there are more number of people associated also. So expansion of the shoe industry also has happened, and people also have gotten employment. More people have gotten employment, and their salaries or incomes also have risen. All of this will cater to higher demand. Obviously, they will not demand for shoes. Otherwise, there is a shoe industry, but there are other industries also. So this high demand will not just be for shoes, but for various other commodities also, which was earlier missing. Because people did not have income or enough purchasing power, they could not purchase any other commodities or any new commodities. But now when they have more income, they can now purchase more commodities. Now, where are these commodities coming from? They are coming from different other industries. So when the purchasing and sale of such new commodities also happen in the market starts to flourish. The market starts to gain momentum, because now those different other industries are also selling the commodities and earning incomes, earning revenues. The people employed in those industries are also earning income. So which is why this becomes the concept of indivisibility of demand that also has to be catered to when the big push is applied. So this is how the complementarity of demand can be catered to by the big push. And finally, then we have the last part, which is the high levels of investment require corresponding high levels of savings. So the third part of big push indivisibilities is indivisibility in savings. Because for underdeveloped countries, incomes and purchasing power are low, so even the marginal rate of saving also is low. However, big push theory also caters to the fact that if the savings will be low, investments would be also low in the economy. So, in order to increase investments, we need to also increase the savings. So, big push theory does not cater to only one parameter of an underdeveloped economy, but caters to three parameters, one related to production function, the other related to the demand, and third related to the savings. And this is how we can explain how big push as a concept, as an idea, as a notion is so important from the perspective of developmental economics. We will meet with more such concepts with regards to different other economists very soon. Thank you.